When we think of justice, we imagine a system that is fair. We picture scales held in perfect balance. But what happens when those scales are tipped? What happens when the system designed to protect families ends up breaking them apart? This is the story of a father in the United Kingdom. He found himself in a battle he never expected. He was fighting to stay in his daughter's life. The family court, a place meant to help, became a wall between them. It's a story that asks very tough questions about how justice is really served behind closed doors, away from public view. This father's journey began with a simple human desire. He just wanted to be a dad. He wanted to share his life. He wanted to share his culture with his young daughter, but a family separation turned into a complex legal fight. The system he trusted to be impartial seemed to pick a side. He felt that from the very start he was seen as the problem. Every step he took to be a present and loving parent was met with suspicion. The process felt less like an investigation into what was best for his child and more like a foregone conclusion, one where he was already cast as the villain in his own family's story. The core of the issue was not about safety or harm. There were no credible allegations that he was a danger to his child. In fact, the evidence suggested the opposite. He had a strong, loving bond with his daughter. Yet the system began to slowly and systematically erase him from her life. It was a gradual process, like a slow-motion car crash. He watched helplessly as decisions were made that pushed him further and further away. In family court cases, a lot of trust is placed in professionals. People like Kafka's officers are meant to be the eyes and ears of the court. They are supposed to investigate impartially. They are tasked with figuring out what is truly best for the child. But in this father's case, that trust was broken. The Kafka's officer assigned to his family seemed to have made up their mind very early on. The final report was filled with bias. It favored the mother's narrative without question. The father's perspective was dismissed, minimized, ignored entirely, painting a one-sided picture for the judge to see. This wasn't just simple bias. There was a clear cultural element at play. The father came from a different cultural background than the mother and the professionals involved. His cultural norms, ways of expressing himself, were misunderstood. They were often viewed with suspicion. Instead of trying to understand his perspective, the professionals labeled it as problematic. This cultural discrimination became a powerful tool used against him. Parental alienation is a difficult and painful subject. It is when one parent actively tries to turn a child against the other. They might make up stories. They might create fear. They might block communication. The child, caught in the middle, starts to reject the targeted parent because they have been manipulated. There were clear signs in this case. The daughter, once loving with her father, began to pull away. She repeated negative things that sounded rehearsed. They sounded like words put into her mouth. Those signs were missed, or more accurately, ignored. Professionals are trained to spot these patterns. They should notice sudden behavioral change. They should question reasons that sound coached. They should question reasons that don't fit the child's age. Yet here, her rejection was taken at face value. It was presented as her genuine feeling. No hard questions were asked. The child was the victim, not the source of the problem. A recorded phone call became a heartbreaking piece of evidence. The father had a loving, supportive conversation with his daughter. On the call, she sounded happy and engaged, like she used to be. That recording proved their underlying bond. A courtroom is supposed to be a place where truth can be heard. It's where evidence is tested. Both sides should get a fair chance to present their case. But for this father, that fundamental right was denied. The judge, in his case, took actions that effectively silenced him. He was not just an impartial referee, he became an active obstacle to a fair trial. When the father tried to present his evidence, he was shut down. The process felt less like a hearing and more like a formality where the outcome had already been decided. One of the most shocking moments was the judge's refusal to allow cross-examination. This is a crucial part of any trial. It's the chance to question the other side's story. It's the chance to challenge the evidence they present. The father's legal team wanted to question the Kafka's officer about clear bias in their report. They wanted to ask why key evidence had been ignored, but the judge blocked them. By preventing cross-examination, the flawed report went unchallenged and was accepted as fact without scrutiny. Then there was the audio recording. The phone call between father and daughter was vital evidence. It showed their loving relationship. But the judge refused to listen. In that moment, he chose to ignore the truth for a simpler, incorrect story. This was not the failure of just one person, one report. It was a systemic breakdown. Multiple agencies, which should have acted as checks and balances, instead worked together in a way that reinforced the injustice. The police social services, they too seemed to accept the mother's narrative without proper investigation. Each time the father sought help, he was met with a wall of bureaucracy. It deferred to the family court's flawed process. It was as if all the official bodies were reading from the same script. This coordination created a powerful current that was impossible for the father to swim against. The most tragic outcome of this systemic failure is the impact on the child. A child's identity is shaped by their family, their history, their culture. By cutting her off from her father, the system also cut her off from a huge part of who she is. She lost access to her paternal grandparents, her cousins, her extended family.